My question is to the Housing Minister. Housing is the most critical cry for help in my electorate. The previous government's National Housing Infrastructure Facility spent only 20% of its allocated funding, with none directed to regional and rural Australia. Under your housing fund, can you guarantee that funding for social and affordable housing will actually be directed to regional and rural Australia?
I give the call to the Minister for Housing and Small Business.
Thank you, Mr Speaker, and I want to thank the member for Indi for her question, but also for the great conversations and advocacy she's had for regional Australia, particularly in her electorate when it comes to affordable housing and making sure more of her constituents can have a safe, affordable place to call home. Because we do understand that we need more Australians to have a safe, affordable place to call home, because it's central to the security and dignity for all Australians. But of course what we had was a decade of very little action by the former Liberal National Government, and it's left us with significant challenges right across the country. Whether it be in Wangaratta in your electorate or in Burnie in my own electorate, people are struggling to find a home that suits both their needs and one that they can afford. I hear it all the time. Strong employment growth has not been matched with housing supply. We have businesses, local governments that have jobs to fill. However, attracting workers is frustrating because there is nowhere for them to live. It's actually a very serious issue. So tomorrow I will be introducing the legislation that the member asked about, which is the single largest investment in new affordable social and affordable homes in more than a decade, the $10 billion Housing Australia Future Fund. Indeed, returns from this fund will be there in perpetuity to invest in social and affordable housing right across the country. We anticipate there will be 30,000 social and affordable homes in the first 5 years of that fund. Importantly, for the member for Indi, Housing Australia, the new entity that will be created by the legislation that we introduce tomorrow, will ensure that this funding stream is equitably and fairly distributed across all states and territories, but also in inner city, outer suburban, regional and rural Australia. We need to make sure that the funding goes where it's most needed, but we also need to make sure that they're the right homes in the right places. The legislation that I introduce will also have the National Housing Supply and Affordability Council to be independent and provide independent advice to all tiers of government on options to increase housing supply right across the country. We want to make sure that that advice is independent, because we need to make sure that we have the right policies and the right levers are pulled by the right tiers of government to get more homes on the ground much more quickly. And the member raised the Housing Infrastructure Facility and the investments. We unlocked up to $575 million that was not being utilised, and just last week I was in Burnie to see an example of how the Commonwealth funding with the state funding and the community housing provider will provide 180 new homes just in northwest Tasmania. We of course have brought forward our regional first home buyer guarantee also, and we now have over 1,700 Australians that have their own home because we brought it forward. I want to assure the member we will be making sure that homes are in the right places right across the country and making sure that more Australians have a safe, affordable place to call home.